LifePoint students and parents, Jim Thomas here. Just wanted to catch up with you real quick with a brief devotional. Also, just wanted to mention, if you're not familiar, we are meeting Sunday nights, 6 to 8, at Skyline Commons Park near the church. There, we're just going to hang out, play some games, have some great conversations, and really fellowship together throughout the summer. Also, we will be having a few other events, so be on the lookout for that. Now, as I said, this is a brief devotional, and I'm going to try and keep to that word, because I like to talk a little bit. We're actually calling this series Faith as Adventure. And in this first devotional, I'm calling it Risk and Reward. So, just to bring up the subject, I often feel like our walk, our growing as Christians, as followers of Christ, it can feel like we are on truly an adventure. And I think what happens is, and maybe you guys know what I'm talking about, we often face fear and apathy as something that hinders our trust or our following God from time to time. If we were to explore that risk-reward thought process that we go through when we're making decisions, it might help us to understand more of how we can follow Jesus more closely. It might help us to grasp how God challenges that apathy, that fear, or even in the midst of it, to go on this adventure with Him. And remember, this adventure is just not we get to one goal. It is one long journey till we join Him in eternity. Now, before I get too far ahead, because you know how I do that, briefly look at Exodus chapter 14, verses 10 through 22. Now, this may seem like a very familiar story to you. This is Moses standing at the Red Sea. He's got Pharaoh at his back. And what is he supposed to do? This huge sea is before him, and yet he knows he has to press forward. Now, again, familiar story. You and I know it very well. But again, take a brief look at it and see kind of the attitudes and the thoughts of the Israelites that are with Moses at the time. Now, many of them feared following God into the desert or out of Egypt already. In the journey, and this happens even after the Red Sea, but even in the journey, so many complain, so many despair. And often, they just basically say to God and Moses, wouldn't it be better if we just went back to Egypt, to that bondage? At least there, it was kind of predictable. We kind of knew what was going to happen. And strangely, they found comfort in that, I guess. But all along, they're doing this. And yet, this is where the risk-reward, this is where God challenges them to venture forth. He calls Moses to venture forth and to not be in fear of this, because there's going to be rewards on the other side. So Moses presses forward, and in so doing, God moves in powerful ways. Look what happens. The whole Red Sea is parted. The Israelites safely cross. Their main threat is taken care of. And yet when the sea comes together again, there's God, in a way, permanently severing that bondage that was there. Basically, God was calling them to venture forth, not just to go through the sea, but to venture forth and not live in fear or bondage anymore, to find true freedom, to be a people, to be a society, to have a whole nation, but also to be His people and that He could be their God. Now, as a result, what they witnessed was so impactful. And God moves in this way, not only for the Israelites, but for you and I. It can be that great for you and I if we venture forth, if we risk a little. Now, again, I know it's easy to say, if we risk a little, if we take on something that seems so challenging, or something that calls us to give up, maybe a friend, maybe a job, maybe social status. You know what you face. But the point is that as God called Israel to venture forth, you and I can venture forth. And in the end, the rewards will be so very great, because we will be closer in our relationship with God, and we'll be more on track in following Him. With that, I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.